father came to Cleveland in 1961 to work at the VA hospital that was in Parma, correct? Until they built the one on East Boulevard in 1962.
Yeah.
He started working there in 1962, and then his wife and then children came to Cleveland from Huntsville, Alabama.
What it was the equality of going to school. Our mother was bright. We had a lot of racism and people looking at us and couldn't figure out what we were. You know, we weren't, and I'm just be real, we weren't black enough and we weren't white enough, and they couldn't figure it out. And I think it started with that equality and my mother being a teacher and being as bright as she was, trying to get a decent job. His main objective was to fight for the equality for his wife being a teacher and his children going to school. The first place if I remember correctly, was Hazeldale. That was on the Glenville side. I was going to Chesterfield, which was off 123rd in Lakeview, and that's when they had the Lakeview riots. I remember that even as a little girl. I remember those riots. I remember us having to turn our lights off and Daddy telling us to get on the floor because of the fact that they thought my mother was white. So I remember those things. And my mother went to different schools. I remember her going to Murray Hill. At Murray Hill, they didn't even know she was black. They sent her over there because she could fit in. She happened to have a flat tire one day at school, and she had to call my dad to come fix the tire. And when he got there, he told them that his wife taught here. And they told him, there's no way your wife taught here. There's no black teachers here. And my mother had hid it all that time until she had that flat tire. And I remember while she taught up there, she went to those restaurants while she taught up there. And she sent me to a bakery on the corner of Murray Hill to order wedding cake. And they wouldn't bake me a cake. They said they didn't bake cakes for black people. And so she stayed there, I think, maybe 2 years after that. And they got her out of Murray Hill. So that was the backlash of that equal rights and that segregation. I remember that very vividly. And I'm the Huntsville baby.
I was born in Huntsville, Alabama also.
And then we had a brother who's deceased now. It was 3 of us Huntsville babies and 2 Ohio babies. So I was that Huntsville baby. It was for the Stepney House School on Lakeview, which is now empty. He was there with other members protesting. I do know that the reverend that got ran over by the bulldozer took my dad's place because he got called back to VA. And Reverend Clunder stood where he was supposed to stand. And that bulldozer would have ran over our father and not Reverend Clunder. And that was one of the names that we heard him say for years. He knew Bruce Clunder like that was a brother to him. So that was one of the names that we heard him and my mom say for years until we found the article in the house and read it. He had a spot on his head from that hit for years, a big black spot. And we didn't know the details until my mom told us about it and Dad told us about it. And if I'm not mistaken, and correct me, Mother said as they were trying to get him out, that's when they started hitting him, bringing him out of that ditch. And it was just, if you can say by the grace of God, that he had to come out the ditch anyway because he had to go back to work. But in the meantime, he was beat, bringing him out of that ditch.
He was always courageous in Huntsville, Alabama, marrying my mother, because once again, in the car, when people would see them, they see a black man, but they thought that they that he was with a white woman, and she was just very light-skinned.
Daddy told us a story where we were traveling and he stopped to get milk for me in a bottle. And he went into a restaurant to get milk for me, and they put salt in the milk. And he happened to, I don't know if it was taste it or know that, and he went back in the restaurant with his pistol and made them give him milk for his child. Those were the kind of stories that we grew up hearing about him and my mother. And this is a person that he was with for 70 something years. Just even thinking about it, I don't know how they managed 70 years of marriage, raising 5 children under that kind of magnitude. Younger generations today have no idea what older generations have gone through to get them where they are right now, the freedom that they have right now. And they sometimes take advantage of it. Now, sitting here talking about it, it's very emotional. It's very emotional that these are my parents that had to go through this so that I can have a better life, that our children can have a better life. And trust me, they did. We were all successful in our own right. Our kids were successful in our own right. And we're very proud to be related to those two people. But then, see, they fought their whole lives in Alabama. My grandfather had farmland that my father helped him with. My grandfather had 11 children in a 2-room house that after my father married my mother, they were able to build onto a house and put a bathroom in.
And when we traveled from Huntsville, Alabama to Cleveland, we traveled once we moved here in 1962. We went back every summer, but there was only one restaurant that we could eat at in Kentucky, and that was called Jerry's. But all the other restaurants would give us things with salt or wasn't good food. There was only one restaurant in all those years that we remember going to.
I remember going to church on Lakeview Second Baptist Church on that corner. And we got beat up every time we went. And my father made us go to church. We lived on Oldman, and we walked up to that church every Sunday. And every Sunday we got beat up until we moved off of Oldman to Thorn. And we didn't have to go to that church anymore. We started going to St. Mark Presbyterian, which is on Superior and East Boulevard. That's the shirt we threw away 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tall, good.
that's Tyler, yeah. I don't know, Mother, I don't know why. I really don't know why. Just a reminder, maybe to us, to her kids, her grandkids, and now her great grandkids, of what education meant. She was very keen on education to the fact where most of them have degrees except for me. And I wanted to be a teacher like her, but she knew my personality. So she decided, okay, come to the classroom with me. You know, just sit in and see if this is what you want to do. And I did. I went, and I think I spent maybe 2 or 3 days in a classroom. And I was like, nah, that's not me.
On the other hand, she couldn't be a teacher, but my sister and I, we did go into education. I retired from education from teaching for 37 years. And I always said my mother was teaching over 50 years, that I would never go 50 years. But I was, when I retired, I had been teaching for 37 years in education. I started in Akron, Ohio, Jennings Middle School. And then from there, I just couldn't handle the 7th and 8th graders, and they couldn't handle me. I mean, I went out one day and my tires were flat. So I went into the private proprietary schools, Hamill Business College, Akron Institute, Medical and Dental, and then retired from Herzing University, all in the Akron area. I would want them to know the reason that they did it was for their children and now their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. My mother was very, very keen on education, and we knew that from growing up. So that is the reason my father was out there protesting. For her being able to be a teacher, and then for her children to be able to go and get an education just like the other students.